Oliver sat in his small but cozy apartment, staring out at the rain splattering against the window. He was the kind of guy who people described as dependable, the friend who'd always show up to help you move or listen when life got tough. But at 32, he was beginning to feel the weight of loneliness. His friends were all either getting married, having kids, or settling into long-term relationships. Meanwhile, Oliver found himself scrolling through dating apps in the dim light of his living room, wondering if his person was out there somewhere. That night, as the storm raged outside, he opened Tinder. The app was something of a last resort, a place where he could cast his hopes into the vast sea of potential matches. He swiped left and right, each profile blending into the next, until he saw her. Vanessa. Her profile picture looked like it belonged in a magazine, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, her blue eyes shining with confidence. Her bio was simple but intriguing. Looking for someone who can keep up with me, lover of good food and great conversation. Oliver hesitated for a moment, unsure if someone like Vanessa would even look twice at him. But he swiped right, and to his surprise, they matched instantly. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Vanessa was witty, sharp, and full of energy. She told him she loved fine dining and suggested they meet at Chateau Lumière, an upscale French restaurant downtown. Oliver wasn't accustomed to fancy places. He preferred hole-in-the-wall diners with good burgers and strong coffee. But Vanessa's enthusiasm was infectious, and he found himself agreeing. The night of the date, Oliver stood in front of his mirror, adjusting his blazer for the 5th time. His nerves were a mix of excitement and dread. As he walked into the restaurant, the golden glow of chandeliers and the hum of quiet conversation welcomed him. This was out of his comfort zone, but maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. Vanessa was seated at a table near the window, looking effortlessly stunning. When Oliver approached, she greeted him with a radiant smile and an air of sophistication that made him feel slightly out of place. "You're even better looking in person," she said, her voice smooth and confident. They settled in, and Vanessa immediately took charge. She ordered an expensive bottle of wine and an array of appetizers without consulting Oliver. He didn't mind. He was captivated by her presence, though her assertiveness was a little intimidating. Their conversation started light. Vanessa talked about her career in marketing, her travels to Europe, and her love for the finer things in life. Oliver shared his passion for photography and his dreams of one day having his own gallery. While she listened, her responses often veered back to herself, but Oliver chalked it up to her confidence. As their entrees arrived, Vanessa's sharp tongue began to emerge. She criticized the decor, commented on how some diners were dressed, and even mocked the pianist softly playing in the corner. Oliver laughed nervously, unsure of how to respond. Then their waitress arrived. Amara was a young black woman with a warm, inviting smile. Her uniform was crisp, her demeanor professional yet kind. She greeted them cheerfully and recommended the specials, her voice carrying a soft melody of kindness. Vanessa barely glanced at the menu before interrupting. "Can you, not try so hard?" she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "It's distracting." Amara blinked, her smile faltering. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Was there something wrong with my recommendation?" Vanessa leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "It's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. You're trying too hard to be, relatable. Just take the order and stop pretending this is some Broadway audition." Oliver froze, his stomach sinking. Amara's hands trembled slightly as she jotted down their order, her face carefully composed, but her eyes filled with quiet hurt. "Vanessa," Oliver said softly, "that's not necessary." "Oh, please," Vanessa replied with a dismissive wave. "I'm just being honest. People need to know when they're out of their depth." Amara nodded quickly and stepped away, her head slightly bowed. Oliver couldn't sit still. He shifted in his seat, the tension in his chest growing unbearable. When Amara returned with their food, Vanessa's sharp tone persisted. "Could you at least bring the bread basket on time?" she snapped. "It's not rocket science." That was it. Oliver pushed back his chair and stood, his heart pounding in his chest. The scrape of his chair against the floor echoed loudly, drawing the attention of nearby diners. "Vanessa," he said, his voice calm but firm, "this date is over." Vanessa blinked in disbelief. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Oliver said. "Your behavior is unacceptable. You've been nothing but cruel to someone who's just doing her job. I can't sit here and watch it anymore." Vanessa's face turned red, her eyes narrowing. "You can't be serious, Oliver. She's overreacting. It's not like I said anything that bad." "It's not about what you think," Oliver shot back. "It's about how you made her feel. And frankly, I'm embarrassed to be sitting here with you." Vanessa stood abruptly, her chair nearly tipping over. "You're going to regret this," she hissed before grabbing her purse. "You can deal with the bill since you're so righteous?" "No," Oliver said firmly. "You can pay for your own meal. Goodbye, Vanessa." With that, she stormed out of the restaurant, her heels clicking against the marble floor as whispers spread among the other patrons. Oliver turned to Amara, who stood frozen nearby, tears glistening in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. "You didn't deserve any of that." Amara shook her head, her voice cracking as she said, "You didn't have to do that. Most people wouldn't." "I couldn't just sit there," Oliver replied. "Are you okay?" Amara hesitated, then nodded. "I'm fine," she said, though her trembling hands betrayed her. Oliver gestured to the table. "Sit down for a moment. Take a breath." Amara glanced around nervously. "I don't think I'm allowed to—" "I'll talk to your manager," Oliver said with a reassuring smile. After speaking briefly with the manager to praise Amara's professionalism, Oliver returned to her side. "You shouldn't have to deal with people like that," he said gently. Amara wiped a tear from her cheek. "Thank you," she whispered, "for standing up for me." Before he left, Oliver hesitated, then asked, "Would it be okay if I got your number?" "I'd love to take you out sometime." Amara blinked in surprise. "Me?" "Yeah," Oliver said with a sheepish smile. "If that's okay?" Amara hesitated, then smiled softly. "Okay." Their first date wasn't at a fancy restaurant. They met at a cozy cafe where they talked for hours about everything, her dreams of owning a bakery, his love for photography. Amara laughed more than she had in months, and Oliver felt a warmth he hadn't known in years. Months turned into a year. Oliver and Amara supported each other through highs and lows, building a love rooted in kindness and respect. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Oliver helped Amara open her bakery, her lifelong dream finally realized. As they stood together under the sign that read, "Amara's Haven," Oliver thought back to that fateful night. The worst Tinder date of his life had led him to the best thing he'd ever known. Sometimes, the most unexpected moments change your life forever, and when you choose kindness, life often rewards you in ways you could never imagine.